Paranormal story number 1. My cousin's Ouija board. I got a call from my cousin who said that he, his brother, his dad, and his best friend were using a Ouija board in their basement. Prior to starting, they took a large porcelain doll out of the room because it was so creepy and placed it in the adjacent room face down on a pile of towels. My cousin took a short break because the board was just spouting out nonsense. He had to go to the bathroom. His dad, brother, and friends started asking the board questions without him. One of the questions was, "Who is in the other room?" The board just started spelling out random numbers. And when my cousin came back into the room, his brother said that it wasn't working, that they're gonna put it away, and he showed him the answer to the last question he had. He said, "Dude, that's my social security number." Then they started to talk to whatever started spewing the answers out. It told my cousin he would die in the Air Force. At this point, they tell the entity that they're communicating with to prove itself. It then spelled out the word doll, and they immediately got a bad feeling. They opened the door to where the porcelain doll was in the other room, and when they opened the door, the doll was standing upright in front of the door, staring at them. Everyone freaked out and ran out of the house. My best friend burned the Ouija board, and I think he temporarily went nuts for a few months. As for my cousin, for some reason, he then joined the Air Force and is on a base in Europe now. True paranormal story number 2. I will never touch a Ouija board. I had some of my friends over one night, so we tried out the Ouija board we found in someone's garbage. It had a board and the glass piece that you hold on to. The 4 of us held on to the piece and asked stupid questions, just messing around. At times, one of us were moving around the glass piece just to try and fool the others. When one of my friends went to the bathroom and the other guy bailed out, it was just me and one of my other friends still holding on to it. I asked the board, "When will I die?" And the piece started slowly moving to the letter T. I was left looking at my friend thinking it was him, but he just told me that he thought it was me. The piece then moved to the letter O, and then M, and then back to O, and then R. And then I realized that it was spelling out the word tomorrow. My friend let go and it stopped moving, so I was convinced that it was him. But he swore left and right it wasn't him. But here's where it gets horrifying. The next day, while walking my dog to the park, my dog's leash snapped and suddenly he was free. He started running into the road, and I immediately chased after him, only to hear the horn of an oncoming car blaring and getting louder. I dove as fast as I could out of the way, just barely grazing the car with my foot as it passed by. But it didn't end there. The same day, while sitting under the ceiling fan in the kitchen on full blast, I got up to get something out of the fridge, and behind me I heard a loud crashing sound as all the glass on the table was shattered and everything fell onto the floor. The fan had fallen off the ceiling and I was inches away from being decapitated. I really don't know if it was a coincidence that the day after the Ouija board said I would die, the next day that I had 2 near-death experiences. All I know is I'm never touching a Ouija board again. The Goat Girl. While I was driving down the highway one night, headed home from working late at my job, I came across a young woman standing on the side of the road. I pulled up to her and asked her if she needed a ride, and she then nodded her head up and down and smiled at me. I opened my truck door and she hopped in. As we began driving down the road, I asked her where she was headed, and she told me to just go to the nearest town, which was about 20 minutes away. This girl looked young, maybe around 18 years old, and she did not talk the whole time. I decided to play some music, so I put my tape in the cassette player. After about 3 minutes of listening to music, I reached over to turn off the cassette player, but I accidentally hit the eject button, and the cassette tape fell onto the ground of the truck. She looked down at the cassette on the ground, and so did I, but I was driving at the same time. So, as I held on to the wheel with one hand, my other hand reached down to the ground to pick up the cassette. I was looking at the road, and every once in a while I had to look back down to the floor to grab the tape. The cassette tape was right next to her feet. As I looked at her feet, I was shocked to the core. What I saw to this day has petrified me. What I'm about to tell you is something that only the brave can handle. This girl had goat legs and goat feet. Her legs had fur and her feet were hooves. I was in shock and my eyes opened wide and I could feel my face go numb. I quickly looked at her and she was staring right at me. She knew that I saw her legs. I sat back up really quickly, and through the corner of my eye, I could see she was still staring at me. I couldn't stop shaking. She then started laughing. I can hear her laughing and giggling, yet through the corner of my eye, her mouth wasn't even moving. I slammed on the brakes and reached over quickly, grabbed the handle to the truck, and I opened the truck door. I lifted up my leg and I kicked her out. She flew out of the truck. I then slammed on the gas and took off. I was driving the truck well over 100 miles an hour down the highway. I looked over to my left out of the window and her face was looking right at me. She was flying and gliding right next to my truck window. How was this even possible, I thought. She was cursing and yelling. I could hear her screaming through the window. I drove even faster, and I don't know how fast I was going, but it must have been fast because she vanished. I made it to the nearest town. I got off, had to get my composure together. I was traumatized, and to this very day, I still am. When I was about 6 years old, we lived in a trailer in Rosenberg, Texas, and my mother would watch over me and my little sister while my dad went to work. One morning, my mom was making eggs in the kitchen while me and my sister were in my mom's room. My sister was asleep on my mom's bed while I was coloring in a coloring book. I was facing the wall standing up, and my sister was on the bed right behind me. I just remember feeling as if something was behind me, and I heard a small noise. So I turned around and I was shocked to the core and caught by surprise. There was a blue-looking girl around 12 or so staring right at me. She was slowly folding a blanket, looking right into my eyes. She had black, long hair and it looked wet. Also, it looked as if she was wearing a nightgown. This ghost-looking girl was inches away from my little sister who was asleep on the bed. I smiled and I said hi to her out of fear and waved at her. I slowly turned back around towards my coloring book, and deep inside I was petrified. I started coloring again, yet my mind was set on running out of that room. I was so afraid of this girl catching me while I was trying to run away. Yet, I counted down from 5. As soon as I got to 1, I took off out of the room screaming. My mother was in the kitchen and she turned towards me, wondering what happened. I explained everything to my mother. At first, she didn't believe me, but she eventually decided to go look in the room. She went into the room where I saw the girl, and nothing was there. Just my little sister sleeping on the bed. My mother told me to stay out of the room. After about 10 minutes, I then slowly walked up to the doorway and peeked into the room, and nothing was there. I then walked in and looked around the room, and to my shock and surprise, there was a wet spot right where the girl was standing. I looked towards my little sister, and there was a blanket on top of her. It was the same blanket that the ghost girl was folding.